How's it going, guys? What you'll see today is a nice sniping round I had a while back. And this was actually supposed to be a live commentary at first, but it didn't work out that way. The reason being because that I had my old microphone at that point, and I didn't feel the commentary with me taking breaks and all that a lot of the way through wasn't the best commentary I could have put out. So I decided maybe a post commentary over the good gameplay will work. So here's what it is. What I wanted to talk about today was basically the match type you see here, Rush. Because, and of course everyone knows the CTE or community test environment is basically the environment for at least PC premium guys. So sorry out there to the console guys or the non-premium players that don't have it. Ideally they'll come out with something for you guys to also be incorporated into these changes as well. But that being said, because I have access to it and I do regularly play on the CTE, it's sort of a testing ground, as if you're not already sure about what it is and you didn't see my other videos where DICE makes changes or balance changes, etc. And the community gets to try and test them out to see how it goes. And they've recently put out an announcement that said they're going to be making changes to Rush mode in general, and at least at the start they're going to be changing a few of the MCOM layouts for the Siege of Shanghai and Zavod 311 maps. Of course, this is early on. They might add new maps, they might add new changes to those existing maps, and even the Rush changes in general. But for now, it's only going to be in CTE. Maybe it'll come out in the later patch. But for right now, these are in CTE. And the reason why I wanted to list them is because I wanted to tell you guys the changes. I wanted to give you my opinions on the early changes. And of course, I'll post videos of it when I finally actually get the chance to download CTE, the new CTE patch, because I can't download a 2 GB thing at my house. I'd be over my bandwidth cap, so I have to do it later and then do the changes. And I might do a before-after comparison showing you the changes as I read them here. So let's finally get started. The Rust changes they want to do are as follows. They removed Commander mode by default in general for Rush servers. And I'm sort of torn about this one. I understand Commander mode can be quite fun and quite beneficial for everyone as long as there's two commanders in each, or there's a commander on each side and they're balanced commanders. Like say it's not one rookie commander versus a 120 player. And I do feel in the pro side I do like in certain situations where I'm low on ammo or health, a nice ammo box falls out of the sky, and hey, now I have health, ammo, and a new source of cover as we make our push up. Those are good battlefield moments for me. Some people might disagree, that's fine. We're never going to disagree, or we're never completely agree as human beings. But that being said, there are big issues with it. I don't think Commander mode should be the same among match types. Per se, like Commander mode for Rush shouldn't be the same as Commander mode for Conquest because they're two different designs in terms of how they play out. Like for example, the biggest problem I have was how fast and how much coverage the UAVs could pick up in Rush. So if you had one commander that didn't know what he's doing and didn't block those UAVs, everyone was lit up. The minimap was lit up for where you were, you couldn't flank, you couldn't do anything. But my number one gripe was probably the high value target. I can't begin to tell you how many times I was designated as a high-value target and my squad mates spawned next to me, only to have us completely wiped out because of my high-value target being a constant sort of blinking radar on the screen of where I am, and by default my squad mates. And the second we die, I look at the spawn-in screen big map to find out that our last squad was our last chance to flank. We got wiped out because I was designated, and next thing you know, no one else is left near the MCOM with 25 tickets, and the match is over. And I can't tell you how many times it's happened. I can't tell you how frustrating that is. That was a big issue for me. And now, my basic point with Commander is this: if they were going to make mode specific tweaks for Commander mode and they kept it in that way, I'd be fine with it. But if they were going to leave it as a blanket Commander mode in general like they have it now, then I'm much happier with their removing it in general. That would be my general assessment of that. The next point, of course, they say is they reduced radar sweeping range around attacker bases. So I'm assuming this means either Commander mode, UAVs, etc., or maybe just the MCOMs if you were near them lit you up by default. I'm not 100% sure. If someone knows, let me know in the comment section. We can clear that part up. The next point here is something that I'm really surprised wasn't actually implemented when the game first came out. It was in Bad Company 2, it was in Battlefield 3. I don't know why we took the step backwards and didn't have it here. It's the round start timer edition. In CTE, they're going to be putting this in. They say they're not sure the exact time they're going to put in, but I imagine it would be something like probably 20 seconds, something along that line. And it's needed. I have a solid state drive for my PC. And that puts me at an extreme advantage over those that have the game installed on just the normal hard drive, because not only is the game loading faster, if I'm an attacker, I can usually reach MCOMs before the first guys start to even spawn, and that's a huge problem, because a good team full of like diehard 120 players that probably have solid state drives on their computer are probably already at those bases before the hard drive guys are even in. And it shouldn't be, the game should be as even as possible, even with people in thousands of dollar differences in their hardware. The game should be more equal. So that's what the starting timer, I think, would be a big fix, and it should have been in the game in the first place. And the last point with regard to General Rush changes is they made sure final attacker tickets are not reset after the last base explodes. So either... I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that either, because I know there is a glitch at times where if you plant an MCOM and your tickets actually expire as the MCOM's planted, the round will end anyway. So if that's what they mean by that, that's ideal. But if they mean by, like again, let's read it again, made sure final attacker tickets are not reset after the last base explodes. I'm still not, unless they mean... like the tickets just happen to reset in the game, and that's a bug that costs you an extra kill or two in the kill feed toward the end. I'm not sure, but again, we'll see how that plays out. And if you do know in the comments and I'm just misinterpreting it again, let me know, and we'll fix that. Now, the next changes were with regard to Siege of Shanghai and Zavod 311 map specific changes. And the first one for Siege of Shanghai is they removed all air vehicles to make it a land strike match. Because let's be honest here, the transport chopper for the attackers made basically everyone sit on the roof for the most part. And especially if the match went on and you knew you were going to have problems getting, especially the second set of MCOMs. If you knew you weren't going to be able to get in there, a lot of the time people just went to recon, stood on top of the building, and that was all they did. They just sniped. So... having it so that you're removing that transport chopper, yes, it does take the element of being able to transport an awful lot of people over a lot quickly, but it'll reduce the people going on the roof. And the next point, of course, is attached to that. They cut all powers in the elevators in the map. So again, less people going on the roof and staying on the ground as an infantry-centered map. The next point, of course, is they tweaked the M compositions of all bases, and it says base 2 was especially problematic for attackers if they didn't have enough momentum. And of course, like I was saying, that's particularly true, especially since one of the bases for MCOMs for base 2 was basically underground, and a lot of the time they just drive a tank in there and that was it. You lose. Because the tank would hide in the corner so you couldn't see for it. And it would always know where you're coming from because you'd have to drop down from a certain area, and it was game over. So if they tweak it so that it's not in that area anymore, it would be a lot more balanced. And again, the next point, again leading in, is they tweaked vehicle setup. I'm not sure what this means. Maybe they replace the tank with the LAV or a Humvee. We'll see how that goes. Maybe attackers get a second tank instead of the one. I'm not sure. Maybe a Little Bird instead. The next, or actually no, it won't be a Little Bird. So, because they removed all air vehicles. So maybe a Humvee instead of a tank. I don't know. We'll see. Again, and the next point here is it slightly tweaked certain combat areas and spawns. And this is good because a lot of the time, again, attacking the second base, if you died attacking the second base and you were bumped back to the first set of MCOMs, a lot of the time you'd be under fire or suppressed just based on where you spawned. And that's a big issue because there's a lot of corridors and choke points in that area. So having a nice spawn where you don't have to worry about immediately being suppressed would be probably for everyone's benefit. And the last point for Siege of Shanghai is they added a few cover pieces to go with the updated MCOM positions. So again, having more rubble to take cover behind, maybe having park benches, something to give you cover as the attackers push up into a meat grinder would be nice, and that looks like what they've done here. And the next changes for Zavod 311, and again, this isn't a definitive list, they'll probably add more as we go in CTE. But for Zavod 311, the first change is they wanted to make this map easier for attackers, especially on bases 1 and 4, and I'll explain why in a minute. The next point is the major rebalance on vehicles in terms of favor of the attackers. And it says, for example, transport choppers given to attackers from base 2 and onwards. And this is especially helpful for the impossible last base. And the reason why I say this is base 1 basically had, well, as everyone knows that's probably watching this video, you have the first MCOM, which is right outside the building, and then the second one, which is inside the building. And the second one, the second MCOM in the first set was brutal to get if you got the first one, because they would just hunker down and C4 the hell out of the area, and that presented a big balance issue. And of course, the last impossible base was that one up inside the building, where if you weren't able to get into the building quickly and detonate it, that was it, because they'd hunker down with C4 and a whole load of bullets. So again, that's a fix. The next point, of course, is they tweaked MCOM positions, which might be what I alluded to, and they changed minor changes to elements such as combat areas and spawns, which is similar to the area I was talking about before with Siege of Shanghai. So ideally, you're not under fire the second you spawn, etc. And again, the last 2 points is they added a few pieces of additional cover, and they reduced terrain crater depth. So areas that got bombarded by C4 or foxholes aren't as deep, so they aren't obstructing to vehicles or even people taking cover in them. And adding additional cover helps because, of course, if the attackers are getting continually suppressed as they push up, it's not going to be conducive to being helpful for the attackers. But overall, those are the changes. Let me know what you think about them. And what I'll do, of course, is I might play some CTE footage when I finally get the chance to download it and show off those changes and the balance changes as they play out. But yeah, let me know what you think, whether you like them, you hate them, and whether or not you'd actually be pro the idea of the changes. Have a good one, YouTube.